Hey guys, NoZoupForYou here, and today is a very special day. Today is the day that I finally get to introduce to you and preview the USS Alabama. Now, we've known that this ship has been coming for a long time. There was a veritable firestorm when we learned that this ship might have only been given to super testers. But because of the public outcry, World of Warships and Wargaming said, no, we're going to give it to everyone. We're going to give everybody the chance to have this ship. So, I'm very happy that this ship is in my hands right now and I get to test it, try it out, and give you a preview of it. Now, you all are probably wondering, hey Zoop, why are you holding a baseball? What does baseball have anything to do with the USS Alabama? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I grew up loving baseball. I lived it, I breathed it. As a child, as a high schooler, baseball was my life. So naturally, anything to do with baseball, I absolutely love. And it just so happens that the USS Alabama has a huge tie to Major League Baseball. And that is in the form of Hall of Famer Bob Feller. With a record of 266 and 162 wins to losses, Bob Feller, in my opinion, is one of the most tragically underrated pitchers in baseball history. Absolutely. And part of the reason for that is from 1941 to 1945, Bob Feller put his career on the side. He hung up his glove and said, hey, you know what? We're at war. I'm joining the Navy. And that's exactly what he did. Bob Feller was the first athlete to join up after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. So very important right there. Just a great individual to do that. And I know a lot of athletes and a lot of actors back in World War II did the same. You've got Clark Gable flying combat missions over Germany in bombers. You've got people like Jimmy Stewart doing the same, who would go on to be a brigadier general in the Air Force Reserve. So it was a wonderful life for him, not only because of his acting career, but what he did for our armed services. So from 1941 to 45, the heater from Van Meter, Bob Feller, put his career aside and did something absolutely selfless. Now, during that time, Bob Feller had originally wanted to serve on the USS Iowa. Being from Iowa, that was his first choice. However, every single service member from Iowa said, hey, you know what, I want to serve on this ship. So Bob Feller was put on the USS Alabama. He became a chief petty officer, and not only that, he was a gun captain on the Alabama. Very cool. Now, USS Alabama itself earned the nickname Lucky A because in all her time in the Pacific and the Atlantic, she did not lose a single sailor to combat. A very good achievement for the USS Alabama. So, there's a little background on the USS Alabama. There's something very neat about the USS Alabama and someone that served on the Alabama, Hall of Fame picture, Bob Feller. Again, you can see this baseball signed by him. Hall of Fame 1962, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, served on the USS Alabama. But enough about the history of the Alabama and Bob Feller. You want to know about this ship. You want to see the ship in action, which you have seen in the background, but you want to know whether or not you're going to want this ship. And I guarantee you, as a USS battleship, as a Tier 8 battleship, as a premium battleship, you're going to want this ship either way. It really doesn't matter how it performs. USS battleships have been tragically underloved. Granted, we got the USS Missouri, which was very hard to achieve, and those of you that actually got it, kudos to you. But this is another battleship, and a South Dakota class battleship at that. Something that is not currently in game. Something that we want, a new ship class. So that makes this even more important to us gamers and to you all. So I guarantee you that you're going to want this ship regardless. At this moment, while I'm filming this, I don't know what it's going to take to get this. I don't know if it's going to be offered for sale. I don't know if it's going to be a ship that you're going to be able to get through free XP. So keep in mind that we don't know that yet. And on top of that, we don't know if these stats are going to remain the same, so it's being super tested, very much a work in progress. But I just wanted to show you this ship because I'm just stoked that we finally have a chance to get this South Dakota class battleship that just has a lot of meaning to us. Just because of it's still there, we can visit it, and not only that, it's been used in movies. It stood in for the Missouri and Under Siege, so there's just a lot of history behind the USS Alabama, both for the people that served on it, the fact that it's still around and you can actually visit it, and it's just an awesome ship. So anyhow, I'm going to get out of the way here and just show you the ship in action.
Alright, so let's talk about the Alabama. I just had my first legitimate Harry Potter moment. You know how the wand picks the wizard? Well, the USS Alabama picked me. It's love at first sight. We are made for each other. I cannot tell you how much I love this ship in the few games that I have played in it. It is just a phenomenal, hard-hitting ship. It's almost like a cross between the Iowa and the North Carolina. I mean, it's bliss to play. And I'm biased because I love U.S. battleships, and I love battleships in general. But it's a lot of fun to play. So let's go more in depth on this amazing South Dakota class battleship. First off, let's talk about its guns. These things are hard hitting. These things hit like tanks. I mean, I'm getting citadels at range on other battleships, very much like the North Carolina and even the Iowa, if you recall. If you haven't played them in a while, this is a refresher. Those ships can get to work, and they can do some serious work. So, these guns, absolutely love them. Another thing about the guns, the angles on these guns are excellent. You've got excellent firing angles, and that's an absolute bonus, both if you're chasing an enemy or if you're kiting an enemy. If you're trying to flee from one, you can still get all three guns on the enemy and fire your massive Volkswagen-sized shells at them. No, they're really not the size of a Volkswagen, they're smaller than that, but still, these things hurt, and you can do some serious damage on other ships. I mean, even German battleships. You know, you think of the Bismarck and battleships like that is very hard to damage, or Citadel. It doesn't matter. I was taking chunks of 15 and 18,000 HP off of these battleships. I mean, that's basically the equivalent of citadeling them. So, love the guns, love the angles on the guns. I mean, that is the major selling point of the Alabama. This thing hits hard. My first round out in the Alabama, I did 160,000 damage, and that was trying to figure the ship down, but I really didn't have much to figure out about it. I mean, it operates just like any other U.S. battleship, like a Missouri or a North Carolina. So, let's talk about how I set my ship up. And by set my ship up, I mean, what did I get my stats down to? So, survivability, you got 63,300 hit points. Your armor ranges from 16 to 310 millimeters. Standard fare, and a torpedo protection reduction of 50%. Again, your guns are 406 millimeters. Heavy hitting, awesome guns. We've talked about that in depth. Right now I've got a firing range of 21.1 kilometers on there, and I also have a spotting craft, although I haven't used it, so I might just switch it out with a combat fighter. I just don't feel that I need the spotting aircraft. The range on this is decent enough, especially if you're in a tier 8 battle, so I don't think I would use the spotting aircraft. Now, something I want to talk about, which is another very, very good trait of this battleship. Your AA is excellent. It is phenomenal. It's like North Carolina and Iowa. They both got phenomenal anti-aircraft. But this ship, right now I've got it set at 97, and it just melts planes from the sky. I mean, woe be the tier 8 or lower aircraft carrier that tries to attack you. It's just not going to work out well for them. Your maneuverability is decent. Maximum speed with flags is 28.9 knots. That's what I'm set at right now. Your turning circle radius is 710 meters. Not bad. Rudder shift time 15.3 seconds. Not bad again. Not as bad as the Iowa, that is. And lastly, let's talk about the concealment. With Premium Camo and Concealment Expert, you can get it down to 12.2 kilometers, which again is very good. You can sneak up on someone, and by the time they know that you're there, you've already got 9 rounds inbound and more than likely going to delete whatever cruiser just happened in your way. So this ship is the complete package. You've got guns, you've got great guns, and the velocity might be a little bit slower than that of the North Carolina, but it hits just as hard. You've got great anti-aircraft capabilities. You can melt planes from the sky. Your speed is good. I mean, you are a squat little ship, a little squatty ship. You're not as long as the Iowa. You're more compact than the North Carolina even, so it feels... I mean, this ship is just a lot of fun to play. And I'm telling you all these wonderful things about it, and I know there are cons. There are definitely cons, and the problem is I just haven't come across that many yet in the games that I've played. And either that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, every ship has cons, so I'll try and tell you some of the things that I feel are definite cons right now for her. She's fragile. She is definitely fragile. She's more like an Iowa in that respect than a North Carolina. You might not have as much of a surface for enemy ships to hit if you're broadside because you are a little more squat, but still, your citadel sits a little higher than the North Carolina. It's going to be a little easier to hit than the North Carolina, and in that respect, you're more like the Iowa in your fragility than you are the North Carolina. And we know the North Carolina can tank. Conventional wisdom with the North Carolina is you take it bow on and you just march on forward and you're hard to take out. The Alabama is a hard nut to crack. It's still a tough beast if it's coming straight at you. You don't want to really take those guns, even at an angle if it's got all 9 guns on you. But again, you can definitely pin it. Its citadel looks just like the Iowa's, so please, you have got to pay attention to that, because if you're not careful, you're going to take a lot of damage. So mind your angles. That is probably the biggest con I can think of about the Alabama right now. Looks like a North Carolina, feels like an Iowa. So yes, she will get pinned easily. Startlingly easy, so keep that in mind. But outside of that, guys, outside of that giant con right there, I am on the search for cons, and I will let you know if I can find some more. But right now, that's the biggest thing I can think of. She's fragile like an Iowa, but in her own tier, in tier 8 and below, this ship is an absolute force to reckon with. I'm not saying flee if you come across one, but you have got to be wary, because it doesn't matter what kind of ship you're in. If you're in a Bismarck, if you're in a Tirpitz, she is going to do a lot of damage on you. If you're on a cruiser, do not go broadside to this ship. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you have an Alabama anywhere, do not go broadside. And I find that her dispersion is very good. I find that her accuracy is very good. And she's got this nice little meaty range between 10 and 15 kilometers, where if anything gets within that range, you're just going to absolutely wreak havoc. So guys, there's the first look at the Alabama from myself. If you love U.S. battleships, if you love battleships in general, if you like things that hit hard, this ship is going to be for you. It is just an absolute joy to play. It is a lot of fun to play, and I know I'm like pepping this up, and I'm not going to say this is overpowered. I'm not going to be that guy that says, you know, this is the extreme max of overpoweredness. No, I'm not going to say that. It's a good ship, and in the right hands, it's going to do some great things. But like any ship, you know, it's not going to help a poor player be a better player. It's just not going to do that. So again, as these reviews come out, take a look at them. You know, just soak it all in and make your decision whether you want to purchase this, spend XP on it, or whatever method of payment they set up for this. But I guarantee you that you're going to want it. It's just a fun ship. I know I probably said that about 100 times in this little preview review. It is a fun ship. This is the Alabama we've been waiting for. I think you all are going to be very, very pleased with it. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this preview. I hope this got you excited about this awesome ship coming your way. And I will catch you all later. I am out.